Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. If you are not new here, if you are new here, I don't know how you found me, but congratulations! Today we are talking about one of the weirdest mysteries I can think of, which is the Oakville BLOBS. Now, I do have a video that I just put out about the most mysterious things that have ever fallen from the sky. I purposely omit this one because I felt like it deserved a video all of its own, but if that sounds like something that would interest you, maybe meat falling from the sky, bugs falling from the sky, you're just the kind of person that likes the idea of things falling out of the sky that definitely shouldn't, maybe check out my channel. On to the curious case of the Oakville BLOBS. I'm gonna take you back on the Wayback Machine to August 7th of 1994 to a little town in Washington state called Oakville. This town had less than 700 people at the time of this incident, and pretty much if anything happened in this town, word traveled very quickly. This town is surrounded by thick forests on all sides and is near the Pacific coast. On this particular morning at around 3 a.m., it started raining. But residents who awoke to the storm noticed that the rain wasn't normal. It was thick and jelly-like and seemed to coat yards. Sticky, grain of rice-sized gelatinous blobs began to just pelt the entire town of Oakville. It's as if God himself sneezed all over the Pacific Northwest. It wasn't just a little drizzle here or there, it was a full-on slime shower. I'm talking Nickelodeon special. And the most mysterious part of it all is that the residents of Oakville seemed to claim that these blobs made people sick. According to Oakville residents, there were ear infections, pets puking up green foam. People wanted to know if this was aliens or a government experiment or some kind of omen. But to this day, we still don't know what it was. It's one of the longest unsolved mysteries in American natural history, and the craziest thing is, in 2025, the Oakville BLOBS may have returned. Dottie Hearn, an Oakville resident, was one of the first to report on the blobs. She said that the rain looked like little clear jello bits, grain of rice-sized chunks of goo, and these things coated everything. Dottie's daughter and her brother collected some of these samples and tested on them, seeing if they would break down in alcohol, if they would catch on fire, if they were flammable, basically just trying to identify what they were. Both siblings used gloves and handled the blobs with care, but Dottie didn't use gloves when she handled the blobs. She later reported getting sick. She had dizziness, nausea, an ear infection, and blurred vision that lasted for weeks. Upon going to the doctor, they couldn't discern what kind of ailment she had, but they pretty much decided that it was viral. Dottie wasn't the only one. Over the next few days, several of these residents who had been in contact with these blobs reportedly went to the doctor with flu-like symptoms, and people of Oakville say that this wasn't your typical 1 to 5 day flu. People weren't just sick for a week, people claimed that they were sick for several weeks, even 2 to 3 months. One strange common denominator of all these people with this mystery flu that didn't test positive for the flu, by the way, is that they all had inner ear infections, which is extremely strange. It's not like they were putting the blobs in their ears. I don't know. Some campers on a nearby beach reported hearing large rumbling sounds overhead before the thunderstorm kicked in, but because it was about to rain, they were forced into their tents at the time that they heard the rumbling. Many people suspect that this was government testing going on prior to the raindrops that were more like blob drops falling from the sky, but it can't be confirmed. And at first, the blobs on the ground honestly seemed harmless, so a couple people got flu-like symptoms and there was blobs on the ground. But then pets started getting sick as well. Many Oakville residents claimed that their pets were falling ill after being in contact with the blobs, some even reporting that their pets were coughing up a gooey green foam, which that's not confirmed, that's just a part of the goo lore. Samples of the blobs were collected by citizens and sent out to labs all over Washington state. When these departments looked at the blobs, the first initial reports claimed that the blobs contained white blood cell counts, as in human white blood cell counts. But for some reason, after the Washington State Department of Ecology examined these blobs, they redacted that statement, saying that there was no nuclei in the bacteria of the cells, showing that it couldn't be any kind of human or animal cell in the blob. Why would one test conclude that there was white blood cells and then another test conclude that there wasn't? That's pretty weird. And over the next 4 years, other labs re-examined the samples from 1994 to 1998. At least one microbiologist at a private institution claimed that he did find nuclei in the cells, which would mean that this was coming from some kind of living tissue, but he was one of several microbiologists who claimed that there were no nuclei in the cells at all. Is it possible that some of the jelly samples had nuclei cells and some didn't? It's not likely, but that's pretty interesting to me. Now, probably the weirdest part of this entire thing is that certain labs say that they didn't find any cells that contain nuclei, whereas count them, two researchers that we know of claimed that they did find nuclei in the cells of these samples. So despite whether that these blobs were coming from a living creature or not, all of the labs agree that they contain 2 specific strains of bacteria. The first sample of bacteria that they found was called Enterobacter cloacae. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but essentially that is a bacteria that is commonly found in the digestive tracts of animals. Maybe this was some kind of excrement or byproduct from an animal, which is why there weren't consistent living tissue in any of the samples, but some of them did have nucleus in there. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. And the second form of bacteria that was in these blobs was called Pseudomonas fluorescens, which is a bacterium that is often found in soil and water, and according to a 2021 study, is linked to pneumonia. So there were 2 strains of bacteria in these samples of blobs, and one of them, in many cases, is responsible for causing pneumonia in humans. So that's interesting that several people got sick with flu-like symptoms after these blobs fell. The craziest part of this, in my opinion, is that all of the samples that were being held by the Washington State Department of Ecology are mysteriously gone. Now, whether that means that they tested them to the point where they cannot be used anymore or all of them got destroyed, there is no way to test any of the samples from 1994. But if you think that's the end of the blob saga from 1994, you would be wrong, because in 2025, in Rochester, Washington, a town not far from Oakville, geographically as the crow flies, residents reported more blobs falling from the sky like 30 years later. So yeah, beware of the Blob, the sequel, I guess you may say. Also, I want to say, when I was a kid, I had a very overactive imagination, and I was terrified of the movie The Blob. I hadn't even seen the movie The Blob, or I probably wouldn't have been scared of it, but like, it terrified me. So this is striking a nerve with me. So, without further ado, let's get into some slimy theories, shall we? What do we think these blobs were? The first theory has to do with the reported military jets that were flying overhead. This area had been known for military jet testing, so it wasn't a surprise to anyone to see these kinds of planes flying overhead. Like, people apparently were familiar with that. That was something that happened frequently. But it is mysterious that these planes were reportedly heard right before the thunderstorm where the blobs appeared. One theory states that the military accidentally basically nuked a school of jellyfish during bomb testing, or something similar. According to this theory, chunks of jellyfish matter were just scattered into the entire Pacific Northwest due to military testing. This is the funniest one to me. I don't find it very plausible, number one, because if that were true, wouldn't scientists find nuclei in the cells? Like, do jellyfish cells not have nuclei? Isn't that the whole thing? Like living tissue? Let me look that up. Okay, I thought so. Yes, they do. I mean, jellyfish don't have brains, so I'm not a marine biologist. I don't know if jellyfish cells have nuclei. But apparently, yes, they do. So if this were the case, I really feel like scientists would have been able to identify this as some kind of living tissue matter. The second theory is that this is some kind of airplane waste. In aviation, the large planes that carry passengers that have septic tanks use a substance that's known as blue ice, apparently, and this is like an absorbent, jelly-like substance that just soaks up all the pee-pee and the poo-poo, from what I can understand. It's a mixture of bio-waste and disinfectant that is typically dyed bright blue and frozen and forms a jellyish, frozen-like substance. But if this were the case, blue ice is like frozen, and that's why it obtains a like colloid substance, is because of its temperature. So when Summer Hearn and Dottie Hearn performed their experiments where they tried to dissolve it in alcohol and ignite it and light it on fire, but it didn't do anything, if this were the case, wouldn't have it had some kind of like reaction to those tests? But also, if blue ice is frozen, it probably would have melted away. Now, this theory is the one that I'm kind of leaning toward because I don't know what else it could be, but one theory suggests that this is unfertilized amphibian spawn. It's not actual eggs, it's not actual living matter, but it's some kind of bioproduct that comes from amphibians, okay? After a while, unfertilized frog spawn, as well as any kind of amphibian spawn, the eggs apparently kind of dry up as the spawn begins to dry out, and you're just kind of left with a leftover jelly that kind of looks like this. I'm gonna insert a picture. I think that this could have gotten sucked up into the plane somehow, and that's why it wasn't officially documented as living tissue, because maybe this was unfertilized. I don't know. Again, I'm not a biologist. Then, of course, there's the theory that this is some kind of alien bioweapon. I'm not saying I believe in aliens. I do think aliens exist, probably in the form of like microbe beings, like bacteria and things like that, galaxies off. I don't think there's like little green men walking around that can just like blow us up like in Star Wars. So I find this unlikely, but what I will say is this is one of the most convincing cases to me for alien supporters, just because scientists are swearing up and down that this is not living matter. Some of the tests had found that there's a rogue nuclei cell here or there. If we can't give any solid answers as to what this chemical is, what it's made of, I mean, that sounds pretty alien to me. I mean, I hate to support that theory, but I mean, I kind of get it. I kind of understand. Could be aliens, I guess. The final theory is a fan favorite among Oakville locals, which is that this is some kind of government testing. The state of Washington is home to multiple U.S. military Air Force bases. Oakville residents say that jets are constantly flying over their tiny little town, and some believe that they were testing some kind of biological agent on the people. Honestly, if you told me that the government was trying to do a test with lung-infecting slime, I would just assume that it was another weapon of war, and they accidentally dumped it on a town, or maybe not accidentally dumped it on a town. Ooh, they may have meant to dump it in the ocean or something like that. Like, that does seem plausible to me. I don't know. To this day, no one exactly knows what the Oakville blobs were, or what they were when they returned in 2023. Were they a byproduct of some kind of animal, like a frog or a salamander perhaps? Or perhaps the government was testing its new sneeze gun on these poor, unsuspecting citizens. What we do know is that there is a clear connection between people getting sick and touching these blobs, and that some kind of gelatinous goo containing an ammonia-causing substance rained down from the sky more than once. It also could just be an effect of global warming somehow, like maybe we got a little El Nino situation going on. I don't know! Whatever these blobs were, residents of Oakville have definitely lived through one of the creepiest, slimiest, and gooeyest mysteries in American history. That rhymed. My name is Melody. This channel is called Melody Ever After. I do little mini deep dives on all things creepy, geeky, or spooky, so if you like horror movies, video games, urban legends, or mysteries, definitely check out my channel. Please, please, please. I would really, really appreciate it. And if you are a subscriber, be sure to ring that bell so you don't miss an upload. I upload 3 times a week. I'm an overachiever. And remember, if you see Jell-O out on the ground, don't get your spoons out, okay? It could cause pneumonia. Until next time.